Maybe we can give it another minute before we start off. Yeah. Okay. We're really thrilled to have you all here. Thank you for joining us today. We're celebrating a significant milestone, the 10th anniversary of Menstrual Hygiene Day. We want to use this opportunity intentionally to reflect on the past decade and celebrate some key milestones. While we have looked at the past decade annually in terms of priorities, we also hope that we actively engage in figuring out what does this mean for the next decade as a whole, and like really strive to work towards that. We would like to open up the space for reflections on what contributes towards a period-friendly India. I will quickly take you through what's lined up for today. We will be hearing from Ina from UnInhibited about MHD and its journey in the past decade. Tanya and Arundati from MHAI will be taking us through the menstrual health and hygiene journey in India over 10 years. We have also thoughtfully curated the space to hear from leaders who've been instrumental in shaping the MHH landscape in India. We do have an exciting, interesting, and interactive session. We encourage you all to participate actively, ask questions, share your experiences, and contribute to the dialogue. Please use this as an opportunity also to introduce your work in the chat box. And we would love to stay in touch and connect with you going forward. Yeah, I think having said that, I'd like to hand this over to Ina to kick this off. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you for pulling this out. I think one of the key sort of pieces that came up was that we have 105 organizations working in a single state, which in a way also really signifies and places emphasis on the depth of work that people have been doing across India. And on the other side, we have organizations, we have about 25 organizations working pan-India. So that also gives us a sense that organizations are spreading across and trying to scale and see what that would look like. So these were some super interesting insights. We have organizations working from across the country joining us here on the call today. We have, wow, most registrations from Delhi, followed by Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. Yeah, wow, this is exciting. And also exciting not in the sense that, not necessarily just in the sense that we are representing different states, but more in the sense that this is also an opportunity for us all to connect with each other and see what comes out of those connections beyond the celebration or the 1 hour call today. So I'm being hopeful for what's lined up. So we also, for all the people who've registered, we also looked at, I mean, there was a quick, short, brief questionnaire, and we looked at what is the #1 achievement in MHH in India. And some of the things that really stood out were awareness, policy, sustainability, conversations. Conversations is a big one. Given the narrative around stigma and taboo and where we are placed as a country right now in terms of the narrative also slowly shifting. But what we also hope through the call is for us to understand what menstrual hygiene is, or what menstrual health and hygiene is in the Indian ecosystem, and what are the nuances to it, which Arundati and Tanya will help us unpack, along with a few other speakers who've been super instrumental in this journey of working towards menstrual health and hygiene. So really looking forward to the call going forward.
Okay, thank you, Bhuvana. And yeah, as you said, the occasion we all got together is the 10th anniversary of Menstrual Hygiene Day. And for those who don't know me, I'm Ina Jurga. I'm the international coordinator for Menstrual Hygiene Day. I also came up with the idea, and I worked long time in India. So I worked on the first guideline. I think Arundati is going to talk about this. So my work heart is within India, I always say. So I have 8 minutes. I put on the timer. I wanted to talk a little bit about the 10 years, focus, looking back, looking forward, and give a really highlight on what happened in India over the last years. So for those of you who wondered why the invitation was also Together for a Period-Friendly India, because Together for a Period-Friendly World is the campaign slogan for this year. It shows really the universal goal that we're all working towards to in a really nutshell campaign hashtag. And what's possible is that you can localize this campaign hashtag to your country. So make it a period-friendly India. And that's what we're going to discuss throughout this hour together. So for example, just an example. So now let's look at the journey that we had. And I first give you some global perspective, and then I do a deep dive into India. So when we established Menstrual Hygiene Day a decade ago, we had a small campaign impact. Back then, there was a lot of groundswell, especially in India. Many organizations already worked on it, and I think we have 155 partners. And by the end of, by last year, we had a campaign reach of 705 million people just alone through the campaign and collective action. And again, that symbolizes how the topic has increased worldwide. But MHD is really the peak opportunity to talk about the work, to get into media, to get the attention of governments on the issue. So here is the social media monitoring throughout the year. That's from last 2 years ago, but it looks always very similar. So you can see the peak in the year is really on MHD to talk about it. And this is why we all speaking together, being really, really loud on this day. So now let's look at what happened in India. And it was really excited for me to pull out some of the video photos. And these are only a fraction. And I wanted to pull out those who give us a little bit of a narrative. So again, I want to thank everyone who contributed over the last decade, being it from last years or from the start. With activities, events, social media posts, media work. Yeah, this is just for you to give a flavor what the trends were over the years. So this is the first year we celebrated, and that was an event called BJAC, where some key partners back then, WaterAid, Wash United PATH, and Azadi came together. We even had a back then famous, I think she was a badminton player, to already rally behind the cause. That was nice. And I pulled out a photo from Aina in Odisha because they're really one of the first partners and they're still active. And I think I just really wanted to give a special shout out to Aina for their dedication to advanced policy advocacy and using MHD. And they really started from year one. Moving on to 2015. Here I pulled out a photo of one of the first stakeholder events that was conducted by also, I think, UNICEF and Wash United to review the guidelines. So they were already in a draft, and we organized an event to gather feedback on the draft guideline. And that was also happening around MHD with A bit of a government perspective, but a lot of practitioner perspective. In 2016, and maybe I like that picture, and that's why I pulled out. It was used also in other years. It was a pad in a shopping center, and it really created good attention. And I think it's just a lovely idea, and also for creating signature. And UNICEF pulled out one of the first key celebrities for the MHD campaign, also globally speaking. It was together with Project Kale, they invited Kareena Kapoor to attend an event. And I think this was really also super, super powerful back then that she stood up for the issue. And talking about celebrities, oh no, we're moving on to 2017. So there was not a celebrity back then, but Aranya Yoha was a young poetess, and we did a video with her for India, but it went viral globally. So it was really powerful, and I can really recommend watching it again. It's still one of my favorite videos. And again, a huge media traction as well. So not only on social media, but media picked it up, that there was a young poetess calling out to end the stigma around periods. And here, just to say that also India was always the leading pack in terms of events that we had throughout the last years. So back then, India ranked the highest. And here's one of the creative ideas, is doing the motorbike rally by Chamila. 2018, the slogan was "Together We Can." And we did a special India campaign on Facebook. And especially in India, the hashtags were trending for 6 hours. So really amazing. I mean, Twitter is now a different story, but back then it was really a big thing that so many people took on Twitter. And here's another celebrity mobilized by ACA in India, that was the Miss World, who I think that was an event in Delhi. Really, really lovely. And again, it was captured in the media widely. So talking about that's what I wanted to talk about, of course. Like in 2019, in the wave of the Padman movie, also Akshay Kumar posted around this. So here you have him. And under the slogan, "It's time for action," we had a lot of governments taking action as well. 2020, as we all know, was the periods, and "Periods Don't Stop from Pandemic" was the slogan. And we hosted a webinar together to analyze the impact. And people moved on more to digital campaigns, including the bracelet and the Red Dot campaign. I think it started actually in 2019. And then it continued also throughout the pandemic as an easy way to participate in the campaign. Even government took on online webinars, so that was great to see. And in 2022, we introduced the hashtag "We're Committed," and we already saw governments also being committed to the cause, which was fantastic. And here are some insights from last year with media coverage. Governments from, for example, Chhattisgarh, who showed their commitments, as well as I think that was Kerala government. Continued influencer support. Red Dot campaign was really still strong, and a lot of nice events as well. So thank you very much. So let's look at ahead before we go into the next 10 years. We really want to see an increase of MHD growing. We need more investment into MHH, and I think that's what we all noticed, that the funding is not enough, and really deeply embed menstrual health and hygiene into other cross-sectoral topics related to gender equality, sexual reproductive health and rights, boys and men. So really to firmly anchor this. So yeah, that comes to an end. I included a but, because what we saw that the last 2 years, MHD being on a weekend, was a bit slower impact than usual, especially on social media. So you got overtook by Kenya as the #1 social media country. So my call to you is, with the small but, let's make this 10 years really, again, very powerful, coming together, being loud in India again, despite all odds. So that's my wish. And now over to you, Arundati, to give a really more in-depth perspective beyond MHD, what happened in India with policy and programming.
Thank you so much, Ina. It's really lovely to look at what you presented and to see that there's been so much that has been done, and the role that civil society has played, especially in giving voice to MHD and rallying around it. And that's been fantastic to see. Alongside what we're seeing the action on MHD, where really we have seen a fair bit of attention to the issue by government. And I think many people who are present in this webinar are aware of what the government has done, but we've put together just a timeline to say that over 10 plus years, the government of India has looked at menstrual health and hygiene through different departments and ministries at a national and at a state level. So what we've put together is actually just a national level initiatives, and this is not to undermine the fantastic work that's happened at the state level, as well as at the district level, and even at the panchayat level, city level. But just to see that at the national level, there has been that commitment towards this issue. And a point for us to think about together is how do we leverage and build upon the work that has happened over the past 13, 14 years to take this forward. So I'm not going to go through each ministry, but what we have seen and what's very rich in our timeline, starting way back in 2011 with the Ministry of Health and the very first menstrual hygiene scheme, is that we've seen this issue be placed within different ministries, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Women and Child Development, the erstwhile Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, or now Ministry of Jal Shakti. You've got the Ministry of Human Resource Development, which is now the Ministry of Education. Who have taken lead and who have really looked at very focused schemes and interventions that have primarily reached adolescent girls in school, but also out of school. Now, as we move from 2015 onwards, we've seen some interesting development with other ministries, such as the Department of Pharmaceuticals that came in with the Suvidha sanitary napkin scheme. And now in 2023, it morphed into the Suvidha Sarthi scheme to get funding to support the provision of sanitary pads. We've also, interestingly, seen some action by the Central Pollution Control Board that has adopted guidelines for menstrual waste management in 2018. So we've seen, again, kind of an expansion of this issue into other ministries, and this has been really critical. However, while health, Jal Shakti, or what was drinking water and sanitation, education, women and child development continue to spearhead many of these efforts. There is a need, of course, as all of us have discussed, that how do these ministries work more closely with each other to take this forward. Going down from 2019 to 2023, we've again seen more action on this particular issue. And this is culminated last year, as we're aware, with the draft policy for what's called menstrual hygiene, though we are still trying to make it menstrual health and hygiene. Now, this is quite a pivotal moment for us with the draft national policy, because unlike a lot of the previous initiatives at the national level, it's taken menstrual hygiene management. It has expanded that to looking at certain aspects of menstrual health as well. It's kind of shifted gears, or proposed that we shift gears from looking at adolescents, who remain a very vital group for all of us, but to also look at women and people with gender diverse identities who menstruate across the life course. And this is a very critical development as we look at making the case for working or continued work on menstrual health and hygiene through government initiatives. So there's a lot of work that is that has gone on, but there's also a fair bit of thinking, planning, and implementation and collaboration that we need to do if we really want to take menstrual health and hygiene forward in the country. And it's great for us to kind of sit back and reflect on how can we work with the government as allies, as partners, as implementing partners, as those who are sitting on a wealth of information, insights, and field insights and research evidence to inform the government so that we are able to strengthen their initiatives and take it forward alongside them. So this is a quick snapshot of government initiatives. We do know that at the state level, we've seen an explosion of initiatives of schemes that have happened. And this is not just progressive states like Kerala or Tamil Nadu. We've seen fantastic work happening in Rajasthan, in Odisha, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal, and in other states as well. And again, I think what we want to do at MHAI along with partners is to figure out how we can document this so that we're able to learn from the good practices that other states have done. Last year, several of you may know this, but MHAI, we launched a small survey with social enterprises as well as organizations that are implementing initiatives in the country on what they're doing on menstrual health and hygiene. And we've put this up on our MHH Connect site and giving you a quick snapshot of the data that we compiled from these insights that we got from organizations. Now, when we started menstrual health and hygiene work with the very first MHA in 2014, the focus was really on these key components of menstrual hygiene management, which is get awareness, provide information, provide products, ensure that wash facilities are responsive to the needs of girls and women. And these remain what we're calling essential components of the MHH value chain. And we've seen that a bulk of organizations continue to do this in India. What's been really encouraging to see that we've got organizations that are also addressing emerging critical issues such as menstrual problems and disorders, looking at mental health and menstrual health, looking at providing digital and technology-based solutions for menstrual health, looking at behavior change, introducing a product basket. And so the pieces of this puzzle have really become quite rich to expand beyond those core components, which we need to continue to focus on. But now we have an opportunity to learn from this other work that's happening across the country. Another encouraging trend is we also asked organizations the groups that they focus on, the groups that they typically work on. And again, we saw that menstrual hygiene management, schoolgirls, and then a little bit out of school girls were the primary focus. But when you look at these bubbles, and these bubbles actually represent the sheer number or the volume of organizations that are working with these particular groups and populations. We see, again, we've really expanded our focus and our reach in the country. So schoolgirls, yes, continue to be important, but we're also got a fairly big bubble of working with girls who are not in school. We've got group organizations that are working with women, especially women in the informal workforce, women in the formal workforce, a huge emphasis on people in the urban poor communities, persons with disabilities, looking at adult women across the lifespan, greater attention to issues such as disasters and other kind of conflict-prone areas, looking at women in prisons, working with persons with gender diverse identities. There are some groups that are working with people homeless and pavement dwellers, people in sex work. So again, fantastic to see that there is a real expansion in terms of who we're working with and a lot of rich insights that we want to see how we can harvest and understand and then feed back to the wider community and figure out how we can also partner. So this is just some very quick reflections that we wanted to share with the wider community. I'm going to just very quickly stop my screen. And the purpose of doing this again is to say that we've come a long way. There's been tremendous action. That's fantastic. But we also are at a critical juncture where we have an opportunity to influence and inform this new national policy, figure out how we can translate it and further action at a state and at a district level and perhaps even lower. And very importantly, figure out how we can create platforms for each of us, organizations, individuals, to learn and to share with each other what's happening and figure out how we can collaborate so we're able to take forward some of those good practices and also figure out how we can ensure that we're reaching more people to ensure menstrual health and hygiene for all. So with that, we want to invite 3 very special people onto the virtual stage with us because we wanted to have a little bit of a chat with them and to hear their reflections on what they've seen and what's really struck them as critical progress in the past 10 years and what they want to see us do together as a community of practice in the next 10 years. So I want to call upon Lakshmi Murthy from Jatan Sansthan, who's not just been working for the past 10 years, but perhaps for the past 25 to 30 years. Japleen Pasricha from Feminism in India, and Mayuri Bhattacharjee, who's a menstrual health activist and a trainer. Mayuri, Japleen, and Lakshmi ji. I'm wondering if we can spotlight the three of you on the screen. So just give us a minute while we do that. And meanwhile, if you could just put on your videos, Lakshmi ji, we can see you. And then we'll just spotlight Japleen and Mayuri as well. Okay, so what we want to hear from the three of you, and thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you here. Now, you've been at the center or on the sidelines watching all this happen over the past 10 years and more. So tell us, we want to hear from each one of you. Tell us one thing that really struck you, that surprised you of what we've done over the past 10 years. So Lakshmi ji, do you want to go first?
Thanks, Arundati, and hello to everybody. The three big wins that I have seen, at least for myself, because as Arundati just mentioned, that I go well beyond 2012. I started working in the year 2000. That's really 23 years ago. So one of the big wins for me has been keeping all communication products and modules that we've done in the copyleft space. And that has been extremely useful because it has helped in scale up. Many organizations have picked up the modules, picked up the communication products, which if it had remained in the copyright space, I think the outreach would have been very small. So it's not just one thing. Can I mention two more things? I know that we are short of time and I will be very conscious of that. So
Yes, please do.
copyleft is one big win that it's been a big win for us. It's been a big win for me. Then the other win for me has been the DIY component of Stitch Your Own Cloth Pad. So I've spoken about it in other platforms before. So in the year 2000, we started a Stitch Your Own pad because the pad design was different from the pad design later, because at that time, menstruators did not wear an underwear. So back in 2000, our pad design was different. I speak from the space of design because I am a designer. And the other big win for me has been so many people working in the menstrual health space. So I think those would be my three big wins. So I will, give the floor back to Arundati.
Thanks. Mayuri, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, hi. So great to hear from you, Lakshmi ji. So I still remember in 2015, I was attending this big global event on sanitation, and where I heard quite a number of people who were saying, oh, menstrual health is a kind of a distraction from the ODF agenda. So I think from that distraction that we've come to a movement. I think a big win is that this movementification, if that is a word I can use, that we have not only brought in just wash sectors, but it has gone beyond sectors. It has gone beyond NGOs. It has gone to the hinterlands like Assam. It has gone to places like Kashmir, where in 2014 probably we didn't hear much voices from there, but now we are hearing those voices. So I really think, like building on what Lakshmi ji said, like open sourcing this sector has led to the movementification. And I think as a sector, we have been quite open with the knowledge that we share. So that's I really like about the space that has happened. So I would feel that this democratization is the biggest win of the 10 years.
Thanks, Mayuri. Great point on the democratization. It would be good for us to figure out how we can further democratize that learning and insights that we have. Japleen, over to you. What's been your big win, or what surprised you over the past 10 years?
Thanks, everyone. Hi, Lakshmi ji. Hi, Mayuri. I think I am the youngest person in this panel. I started my work with youngest I meant with the work on menstrual health. So I started my work in 2017, and actually I started with Lakshmi ji, Rajasi, and a couple of more people who are part of this part of this panel. Where we did a campaign on sustainable menstruation called the Pad Effect. And in 2017, for me, it was the first time that I was talking about this topic. And also that is also when, so while doing this campaign, I also converted from plastic and disposable sanitary pads to cloth pads. And I still have those pads from Ecofem that I bought in 2017. So I think for me, the biggest win is because I mostly work on sustainable menstruation and not so much largely on menstrual health and hygiene, is the adaptation of sustainable menstrual products, be it cloth pads or cup. And now we have even more products. We have period panties, we have this, we have so many companies that are producing, these kind of products. And Lakshmi ji also said that keeping them copyleft has been really beneficial. So I see that today women, young women especially, and that's the audience that my organization, targets, are much more comfortable to convert, to have conversations on sustainable menstruation, to adapt to these things, or just experiment and try on, which we didn't see when we did this campaign in 2017. Our biggest challenge was to convince people why disposable pads are bad and why you're supposed to use, sustainable products. And another challenge that we faced was this confusion that I still get these questions when I give sessions on sustainable menstruation is, but we always criticize rags used by women in rural areas. So why are we, promoting cloth pads? And to explain them the difference of how rags are treated versus cloth pads and the hygiene aspect of it. I think that's still a challenge that we face, especially from a lot of urban youth for whom this is understanding that cloth is bad. However, I feel that due to more new products, and there's also a certain, glorification, and just like the products seem cool, that it has led to some kind of adaptation within young women, that they are more open to trying cups or this, or even period panties. That's something that even I have started using very recently and find them very comfortable. So I would say that has been a big win for this work that I do. Secondly, being a media professional, we also work in the space of writing and reporting menstruation sensitively and ethically. And this is still a work in progress. I won't say it's a win-win, but we see that more inclusive language is being used, more sensitive language is being used, and the reporting on menstruation is not just, unidimensional, but is actually more in-depth and has, quotes from menstrual health experts. It has data from civil society organizations, and it is using inclusive language. So that, for me, that is a work in progress, and it's something that my organization also works on, where we keep pushing and create guidelines on how to use sensitive language when reporting on such kind of issues, and menstruation is one of our top priorities.
Super, thanks. Great points, Japleen. Just before we go to the next one, I think it's also critical for us to look at the concept of choice and this product basket. That I think is also a conversation that's come up. And love the point on how do we engage with media more to make sure that what they're reporting is more evidence-based. It's got voices from the field, but also something that your organization has worked on is the use of images and how are we representing girls, women, and other people who menstruate. So look forward to seeing more of that from you. So our last question to both of you, and we're going to do this as a rapid round, is what do you want to see in the next 10 years? So give us one sentence of what you want to see us do as a community in the next 10 years in India. Lakshmi ji, back to you.
In one sentence, okay. I feel that more needs to be done with incarcerated menstruators in shelters and spaces where menstruators depend on other people. Can I just have just one more sentence, or it's not allowed?
Of course, Lakshmi ji.
Okay. So I would like our earth to be less burdened by disposable menstrual products. Can future players in the menstrual space spend more time and energy working on this, because our landfills can no longer take the burden even of compostable menstrual products. So that's all from me.
Thanks,
for the moment.
Thanks, Lakshmi ji. Thank you. Mayuri, over to you.
I think right now most of the cities in India or places are facing heat waves, and that's also something that we are in climate change. So I would really look at menstrual health programs being future-proofed or climate-proofed, not just from the aspect of products, but also from the aspect of how do you talk about hygiene when you have water scarcity? How do you maintain toilets? And one of the things of climate change will be impact on cotton production in the world. So most of our products, even cloth pads, are made with cotton, and not to say of disposables. So how do we future-proof from the risks of climate change? And I think this conversation is to start now, and maybe we should start working now on this to think of innovative solutions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayuri. Powerful point. Japleen.
Thank you. I'll keep it very short. So I have 2 points. One, continuing from what Lakshmiji said, compostable pads. We all know that's just greenwashing. So I would really want that there is some kind of, curb on these kind of products, because they have a false sense. They give a false sense to customers that they are being eco-conscious when it's not the case. And there are no compostable, disposable sanitary pads. They all have some kind of PUL lining. So that's one. And the second, as I said, being a media professional, our work will continue on the ethical reportage of menstruation and menstruators, and that's something that we will continue to work on. And I'm happy to provide information or guides. We have certain guidelines that we have created for our internal purposes, as well as for people who are into writing advocacy. So if anyone needs it, please let me know and I'll be happy to email it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Japleen. If you've got links before you drop off, please do plug them into the chat box. And thanks, Lakshmiji, Mayuri, and Japleen for joining us today and for sharing your views. And we'd like to hear the audience views as well. So please do feel to plug down, what's been your big win over the past 10 years and what do you want to see us do in the next 10 years in the chat box as well. So yeah, back to you, Ina.
Thanks. These were super insightful, and I hope it kicked us off. And we want to now hear from you, because you also were part of the movement, and we want to hear what are your insights, what are your best practices, but also what do you see as opportunities moving forward. So looking at, and here are some of the achievements you already mentioned in the beginning. When you registered, I pulled out a few, include Men in Conversation, Book of Record, donated 1 million sanitary napkins for free, become a queen, etc., and doing research. So we're diving into 3 groups. There will be, I open the breakout room soon, and in each room, we have a representative from UnInhibited who guides you through these 2 questions. What was your highlight from the last 10 years and what are opportunities in the next years? You'll have 15 minutes and the team will help you to guide. We have 3 groups. You can choose whichever group you want. I'm not so sure if you can switch in between, but the time is short, so stick in there. Group 1 is on awareness, education, behavior change. Group 2 on everything around product and product access. And group 3, supportive facilities, services, and any other topics. And with that, I open now the breakout rooms, and yeah, and let's get in an exchange, because we really want to hear from you, because you've done tremendous work, and that's the best way we can hear from you. And then you just do a heart. That's also good. We just want to see, oh, Mahima has that wonderful background. Hi, Mahima. Okay, so you can also just make your picture and then press hearts as a symbol. That's also fine. Now let's give it a big smile. Nice. See, some people are just still coming in. We do another round of photos. If you press the smile button, that's also, yeah, Sneha, I also see you grab a piece of cloth. Nice. Super. Thanks. Thanks for everyone. And now over to the summary from the breakout groups. Who wants to go first? And very short and succinct, please.
Jurga?
Yeah, I think I can go. I think we really had a great conversation. 27 people have joined this group. So yeah, and the Jamboard is filled with the ideas about next 10 years. I think for this 10 years, what was the highlight? Few of the conversation lean towards like digital medium communication, how it has grown and evolved in the last 10 years, and many of the campaigns are becoming digitally focused and how it is reaching a larger population. Second is around also enabled conversation. This has evolved in these last 10 years where people were able to have more conversation. Stigma has become less, not entirely gone out of the picture, but there are more avenues, more spaces where people are having conversations around menstruation. And I think when it comes to in next 10 years, one is around more accessibility towards products, but also the knowledge around it, how we can share more knowledge of all the products available in the market. And I think this also got shared that how we can have more research and more focus on other players in the ecosystem and more focus on other stakeholders like women, disability, and women in menopausal cycle, all of that. So yeah, it was a wonderful discussion in our group. Over to Dilip or Bhuvana.
I can go. I think given that we were leading product access, I won't jump into the most obvious ones, but a quick overview of accessibility, affordability, scalability, disposal, sustainability. These were some of the concepts that were broadly discussed. A few key points that did stand out were one, as a milestone, that was creation of standard for products. However, this point about creating a standard that is more contextual, so it doesn't marginalize local SHGs who produce stitched cloth pads was a great one. Scale was another one that we had spoken about. How can we do this at scale? Solutions where the burden is lesser on the earth. A couple of others that came up were shifting from being an importer market to an exporter market. And the other was shifting the responsibility to the producer rather than always engaging only with the consumers. So I think these were some that stood out. I'm sure I missed out a few, but we will share the Jamboard and the insights from the Jamboard. I'll hand it over to Dilip.
Thank you, Bhuvana. We're part of the Facilities and Services group, the smallish group. We were about 5 people in the group, but which allowed also for a very quality conversation. And I would put it into 3 buckets. I think health, sanitation facilities, and waste management. And with the sanitation facilities, the whole takeaway was that the big win is that the facility exists, probably to some extent in majority of the areas, but we still are to figure out how to maintain them and how to keep them period friendly. With sanitation disposal facilities in rural areas, it's still a major burden. With health, we've just started expanding the definition of menstrual health and hygiene from menstrual hygiene. So we're also like learning on how to integrate menstrual health as part of the sensitization for doctors, government healthcare workers, etc. Looking forward, there's a lot more that we can do of looking at the life cycle approach and the costs it has on climate potential, on the intersections with mental health, probably like another health areas as well. So there's so much more that we can do with the expanded worldview around menstrual health in itself. Arundati had a very solid point to make, so I'll invite her to make that point and wrap up this reflections.
Thanks. Very, very quickly. And this is, frankly, this is something that someone said to us last week or 2 weeks ago in a webinar that, you know, when we make certain, when we put forward certain propositions, such as, you know, sustainable menstruation or the use of certain types of products or the use of certain types of disposal solutions, we have to also be mindful about the impact that this has on the menstruator. So, for example, if a person chooses to use a disposable sanitary pad, by saying that that is wrong and that's detrimental to the environment, we could actually be at risk of further stigmatizing them. And this is something that really got me thinking about how our messaging on these, while they're important and they're relevant, and we need to figure out how to make products, services far more responsive to the needs of people who menstruate, but also, taking into consideration environmental factors. Let's be conscious about not putting that onus and responsibility on menstruators and further stigmatizing them, because for some people, or for many, I think that is a real concern. So I want to stop here, and I want to put that message out for us being in the sector to think a little bit more about our messaging. Thanks.
Thanks, Arundati. And I think with that, you really nicely weaved in all three groups together, because it all goes hand in hand, right? While we did the artificial separation, it is really something that together in the different buckets we did today are very, very, very much interlinked. Okay, so we still have, I think if you can stay with us for 5 more minutes, I just wanted to give you some quick ideas how to celebrate MH Day this year. And then also Bhuvana wants to do some, will do the closing words. So please stay with us for another 5 minutes, and then we can still hang out if you want. So I think for MH Day, as usual, you're very, very free to do any kind of activities that you would like to do. That's in part of your resources. That's part of your objectives. Be it online campaign, events on the ground, media work, or advocacy. For this year, because it's the 10th anniversary, we thought about a nice format called the period party. And here's our test party from the conference Women Deliver. And it's a nice format where everybody dressed in red, like we did today. There was music and poetry around periods. There was some red food and drinks, a playlist, a dance, and some very light speeches, photo opportunities, etc. So think about a party with a purpose to really celebrate the achievements that we had and bring everyone together. It's an idea. You don't have to do this, but if you want to, that's something specifically we thought is a nice format for this year. And of course, it can be with children, it can be with government, it can be online. So whatever. We have the materials are ready for you to use. They're all available on our website, including ready-to-use materials that you can see here, where you can add your logo. And then there's also Canva, which is a free online design tool where you can design the tools yourself with another headline, background, countries. You add the logos, super flexible, so can really make it your own. And for the event kit, we do have a lot of assets like event materials, poster banners, hold-ups, a garland, and some ideas for a period dance or a dress code, red food, song list, and quiz. They will be available on our website next week, so please keep on checking. And then, of course, just continue using the bracelet, I think, or joining the Red Dot campaign. It's also fine, as long as you use the hashtag Period Friendly World or Period Friendly India. We all are in one voice contributing to the same goal. And I think that's what makes the MH Day so powerful, that we're speaking in one voice. Yeah, Shivani will going to share this as a follow-up, but I think when we send the follow-up email, including the PowerPoints and the jam boards and the summary, I think the materials will be ready, so we'll link it there. Now I have 3 asks to you. So always use the Period Friendly World or Period Friendly India and MH Day when you post online. So this is part of the impact tracking. You can use any other additional hashtag, that's fine, but only then your post is counting to the overall aspects. If you want to design your own materials, also totally fine. My only ask is just to include the MH Day logo. So again, it shows that you're part of the MH Day campaign and not doing something else. And we would love to hear about your events. So just send them to us by email and you'll have my contacts then. This year we want to count and how many events and period parties and even online events we'll see. So please do contact us, and there will be also a button on the website later. So yeah, and if you want, you can also subscribe to our newsletter if you don't miss out. Here's our contact, and you will hear from us anyway, as the follow-up to the webinar. And now over to you, Bhuvana, for the final closing.
Thanks, Ina. I would like to really appreciate Ina for pioneering the Menstrual Hygiene Day. And I think it has provided the opportunity for all of us globally, but also locally, to have conversations, initiate dialogue around menstrual health, and collaborate with each other, and really connect and see what we can do together as a community and an ecosystem. However, I'm also thinking about what does this mean for the next decade now that we are here already? What does it mean in terms of us as an ecosystem taking the work forward, and how would that signify what it means for the users, and in terms of agency, bodily autonomy, and destigmatization? And that was exactly our objective for today's call. And we've heard from a lot of people on the call, and very briefly, and I know that the discussion session felt incomplete for a lot of people, given that we had 15 minutes and about 20 people in each breakout room. Thanks for showing up and being present and participating. This was really lovely. And I think the biggest sort of hope that I'm taking forward is that we don't stop connecting at the end of this hour only, and see how we can really take that forward and collaborate and work together and sort of channel the power of a community or a network. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.